Hey, amiga. I had the absolute joy of sitting down with Monica Rojas, founder of BoxFit Queens, and Micaela Alba, founder of Fearless Mujeres, for a powerful conversation we truly believe will inspire and motivate you. This episode was on our hearts as we prepare to host our upcoming virtual event, Reignite Your Inner Spark. And this is going to take place January 8th at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time via Zoom. We felt led to come together for this conversation as an invitation, inviting mujeres to show up, reconnect with themselves, and also have an opportunity to bring another amiga along for the journey. This episode is all about women empowering women, collaborating instead of competing, and fixing each other's crowns without knocking off our own. So grab your cafecito, amiga, get comfortable, and enjoy this heartfelt conversation filled with encouragement, connection, and sisterhood. Welcome to the Mommy on a Mission podcast, where when life be life and amiga, we call on Jesus. I'm your host, Mariana, certified biblical life coach, author, and your purpose-driven amiga, here to remind you that you don't have to walk through life on empty. Here we talk healing, identity, confidence, purpose, and those real-life moments nobody wants to admit they're going through, but we all are. So grab your cafecito, settle in, and let's dive into the conversations that help you grow, breathe, and align your life with the woman God created you to be.
So I guess we'll just kind of introduce ourselves since we're going to share this episode with each of our audience, of our community. So I'm Micaela. I'm the founder of Fearless Mujer and the host of the Fearless Mujer podcast. And I am so excited for what we have planned, which we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But Mariana, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes. So my name is Mariana Monterrubio, and I am the founder of Mommy on a Mission. I'm a biblical life coach, advanced level life coach, but at the end of the day, I'm just another woman just here to continue to empower other women, especially those who are just running ragged and are feeling like they're empty, running on empty. And so here I am just to kind of like help you out in that area.
Your turn, Monica.
My name is Monica Rojas. I'm the founder of BoxFit Queens, and I'm the host of the Faith-Led Fitness for Moms in Recovery podcast. I'm a faith-led boxing coach, and I'm a mom of two, a homeschool mom, a wife, a Jesus lover, and I just love helping moms. I really do. In their season of transforming from the inside out through boxing, fitness, and faith.
I love that. And again, like I'm excited that we did go ahead and do this because we're the three of us, we're so busy, and I think it's hard sometimes to try to put something else, on your plate. We're planning this event because we get it. Like we know how hard it can be to make time for yourself and be intentional. And even though like the three of us are coaches, we still have, we're on this journey. We have our things that we're learning and unlearning. So I guess we'll like talk a little bit about the event. So I wanted to plan another cafecito en amigas, but I felt like, because we do our weekly check-in and we talk about business and just update each other. I don't know. I felt like maybe we need the inspiration too, but also just that moment of helping women. Hey girl, like it's time to make space for you. I think a lot of women and I'm sure y'all are going to agree because you are coaches. A lot of women really have a lot on their plate and they're doing everything for everyone else, and at the end of the day it's like, what about me? And so that's when the resentment comes. That's when the not feeling inspired anymore comes, feeling like you're not good enough. So this is really why, for me anyway, I felt like, man, we really need to gather together. There's strength in numbers. So what are your thoughts, guys, on that?
No, I mean, I agree 100%. I think the common theme that we've all been having in our conversations, because like Micaela said, we try to chat with each other at least every Friday as girls and just kind of like talk to each other about what's been going on, what we're struggling with, and all of the things, right? But at the end of the day, what we find out is that we're all, like I said earlier, running ragged, right? We're always running, running, running. And I say that because it's true. I mean, let's just be honest. We are running ragged right now, and especially in this season. And that we're just running and gunning, and it's hard for us to even have a moment just to breathe. And so what happens is we become overwhelmed. We feel like we're just stuck in a rat race, right? We're just running on that hamster wheel and we don't even know when to get off. And so I think for us, I thought it was very, important that when you brought it up, for all of us to come together, because just to kind of give, other women an insight that we too, we may look put together on the outside, but on the inside, a lot of things are happening, a lot of emotions. I mean, you spoke about it the other day on your podcast. I spoke about it once before too on my podcast. You're going through perimenopause. I'm going through menopause. Monica's just got children right now. And, we're like all over the place, right? And so I thought, yeah, if we said this, if we're talking about it, then imagine there might be other mujeres that are talking about the same thing as well. Like I don't have time for nothing and I'm just tired. Like I'm running on fumes and I don't even know how to stop and get gas, right? And if you're anything like me, I run my car until it's already low fuel and then I get put to the gas.
I just got anxiety when you said that. No, I'm kidding. Because as soon as mine gets close to the E, I'm like, oh, gas. I need gas. and I probably want to cry too because of the perimenopause. I'm just kidding.
No, I agree. I think we're definitely running on that empty, and when we're running on empty, and not even just as moms, but I mean, because we're all in different seasons of motherhood, and it just shows you that we're all going through something similar. It doesn't matter. I have littles, y'all have teenagers, some of y'all have, I know y'all are very busy with your kid, with your son in sports, Mariana and Micaela, you have a teenager, and I homeschool, and like we're trying to run businesses and do all that. But I think what we really had in our hearts that we were all kind of had in common was that we were looking to inspire women with like a fresh wind, right? Just something to really reignite that flame in women, and most importantly in us, because we are here to tell you that we at some point lost our fire too, and it happens. Doesn't mean we quit. It just means that it's the reality. We're not on fire 24/7. And I think when we get honest about that, it encourages other women to not give up. That just because you get a little discouraged or you're not as motivated doesn't mean you got to quit. And I feel like that's where we all came together. Like we were just all sharing about our businesses and encouraging each other. But at the same time, we were all kind of seeing that we were struggling somewhere. We're all kind of pivoting a little bit to see like, hey, like what does God want us to do in our businesses? And the fun thing we found out was that God has us all in different directions. Like he has Mariana on one path. He has Micaela on one path. He has me in a different path. But like at the end of the day, we're all doing this work to glorify him, and that's what we can agree on. So,
yeah. I love that. And I think our perspective just, being women who, live for God and have a relationship with Jesus, you're not running your business the same. And it's not one size fits all. We know that. Like, I'm sure, like Monica, with you being a homeschool mom, like, because this is how I feel. I feel like I'm working my business in parts throughout the day. And, I start feeling like, man, I wish I could just get up and just work on my business all day. But I got to take her to school or I got to do this or, and it's those things where it's like, but this is a season and we need to embrace that. And the problem that I've seen is that a lot of women start to compare themselves. And now you're looking at this coach and that coach, depending on what, type of business or passion project someone is in. And it's one of those things where like, I have to know that the purpose and the calling that God has for me is unique to who He created me to be. And He knows that, okay, you have all these things on your plate and you wear different hats, and obviously all the transitions that come. And I am talking about the perimenopause because I feel like, oh my God, like who else is going through this? Like I don't want to talk about this. It's reminding me that I'm getting older. It's reminding me that I'm not that 20-something-year-old girl anymore. And, I shared it with on the last episode, and one of my clients said to me, "I am so glad that you shared that." Even though it was just a little bit, right? Because the whole episode wasn't about that. She goes, "Because I've been going through that, and I'm wondering what is wrong with me." And so, my goal is to really, what I see the Lord showing me in this season is like, tell them that there's still enough. Tell them that, they don't have to quit or give up. And so that's why I shared that, because it's like, just because you are feeling like, man, this isn't working the way I wanted it to, this isn't giving me the results that I wanted it to, what ends up happening is most women lose their confidence. But I think society and culture has conditioned women to think kind of like men in a way, that you are what you do, that's where your identity is. What I've learned is that when I don't feel inspired, and just in general, right, for women and clients, whenever a woman doesn't feel inspired anymore, she starts to look inward. Like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I do
Mm-hmm.
it like Susie Q over there? And so my goal is to help women understand that, like, your confidence doesn't come from what you're doing or how you're performing. And that's the problem. It's like because of the feminist mindset, because of this boss babe mentality, a lot of women have been taught that I have to perform just as good as a man or better.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that's really how God designed things for us. I think that obviously we are called to stand out. We are called
Mm-hmm.
to still have that gentleness about us in a strong way, and there's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, it's like wherever God has put you, He knows that you are well capable of doing that very thing. That's why He put it
Mm-hmm.
on your heart. So if
Yeah.
you are not getting the results that you wish you had, or that your cousin has, or that your sister has, maybe it's because God is still trying to teach you something. And so
Mm-hmm.
my goal is that women really understand, like, just because something isn't going your way in business, in your passion projects, even in your personal life, that doesn't mean God isn't doing something through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, I
Yeah.
have to agree because you just touched on something, and that was, that mindset that has evolved and changed over the years because some there were women out there that were like, I can do just as much a man can do. And the problem with that is that God created us to be a certain way, right? He all built us a certain way, and we add that's just an additional stress that we start to feel, and we start to add on to our lives because it's that mindset, oh, I can do it, I can do it, I can do it, no problem. But at the end of the day, yeah, we can do it, but the expectation still is being a mom, going to work, coming home, cooking, cleaning, doing laundry, doing all of the things that we would do if we were, let's say, stay at home mothers and we could, stay at home. We still did those things, but now we're adding that job, right? We're adding that. And that becomes hard. Now, mind you, I was a single mom and I had to do it too. But I think the mentality is a little bit different because it's that mindset of I have to do it because I have to take care of these kids. I have to survive. Whereas the other mentality is, oh, I think, I know I can do it. I like as if we're trying to prove something. There's a
Yeah.
difference in the mentality, right? And that wears wears you out, no matter in what capacity, we're still worn out because we put the pressure on ourselves. And I think that's just our makeup too, that we add that stress and that pressure onto ourselves. And we are emotional beings. I mean, we talked about that earlier because, first we have our cycles. When we start our cycles as teenagers, our hormones are all over the place and we're just like laughing, crying, eating, all the things, right? And then comes the comparison. And then when we get older and we start having children, our hormonal changes again. And so once again, we start feeling all of these emotions that come into play. And then you start getting into the senora era and you have the menopause and all of these
The
things,
change.
girl that nobody wants to talk about. And the thing about it is, and this is the beauty of it. So I know that some of, a lot of y'all are going to hear this message, but here's what I want you to know is that you've got 3 age groups right now. You've got the 50 somethings, which is me. You've got your 40 something, that's Micaela, and then you got your 30 something, that is Monica, right? But here's the thing, all of us still come together. It doesn't matter how old we are, but we can find commonalities with one another and we learn from each other, right? Like there's things that perhaps I can teach, but at the same time, Monica can still teach us. Micaela can still teach us. So it doesn't matter how old you are. It's the mindset. It's that, like you were saying, because we do run into that rat race of comparison, even as adults, and social media is very powerful in that area because we only see what people post. And sometimes my pastor said this, social media is set up to be depressing. And what he means by that is that because if you are already a person with insecurities and you're looking at somebody else's social media, you're only going to feel even that more insecure and you're going to get that much more depressed.
Wow.
Right. And so I know, right? And that was powerful for me to hear that because unintentionally we fall into that trap. I myself am one of those people that like I had to take a social media break. Right now I'm taking a social media break and, I had some coaches that said, maybe that's not a good idea and stuff. But you know what? Here's the thing. God's going to do what he's going to do regardless. If God's going to bring me the clients that he's going to bring me, whether I have social media or not.
Yes.
God's going to give me a certain type of creativity, whether it's on social media or not. Because it's like you said, we're all equipped differently. We all have different things. And yeah, don't get me wrong. There are times I'm like, God, I wish I was as creative as that person, or I wish I had that person's talent in doing these things and these graphics and stuff like that. And the reality is that I am who I am. And the only thing that I can do is change some of the things that I do, but I have to, at the end of the day, be obedient to what God is calling me to do. And if I'm not, and I'm always just confused, or I'm always in this rut, then am I really doing what God is calling me to do? Or am I trying to do what I want to do and it's not working out? So I'm beating myself up.
Wow. That's so good.
Yeah. I was thinking about what you were saying, Mariana. You were talking about women wanting to do things that, men can do. And, the truth is just because we can do it doesn't mean that God's calling us to do it, right? There's a big difference in that. Like, just because I know I'm capable of doing things doesn't mean that that's where God has me, And I think that is one of the issues with social media is that we just see the dangling carrot, and we don't know what it's taken that person to get to where they're at. And, I don't need social media's help to feel depressed. I can do that on my own. I don't need their help.
Same.
I don't need their help to feel insecure.
I got my friend perimenopause.
It's with me all the time, I don't need that. So I feel like, yeah, social media is a good tool, but at the same time, that's the last place I'll tell you to find me, because you won't find me on social media. That's the last place you'll find me. You have a better chance of emailing me and me responding back to you faster, because that's the kind of relationship I've kind of pulled away with social media. But I was also thinking about, we're talking about the whole business thing, right? And not even just the business, like the timing piece. And I remember the Lord gave me this like revelation a while back, a couple years ago, and I shared it with y'all, where, I was so focused on how much I was gonna do in a certain time. Like I was like, how, when am I gonna sell the boxes, or when this is gonna happen or unfold? And the Lord dropped it in my spirit to look at it not in a year's time, but a decade's time, And I think that's a really hard thing for us to do, because if we look at something in a decade's time, it's like, no way. There's no way I can wait that long to see what's going to plan out. But the truth is that if we look at it in that way, like it takes the pressure off. And like you were just saying too, Mariana, about like the algorithm, or about you being off social media, like God is greater than the algorithm, right? Like if we're gonna get that fruit from it, like it's gonna come with or without social media. Yes, it may help it, but we don't need that. I've seen many successful people on podcasts and email, just doing their emails or YouTube or whatever, right? So, I think it all comes down to how we view things, how we renew our mindset around that. And for me, the way I know something's for me or not is, does it produce any fruit in my life? Do I have any joy? When I take a look at the fruits of the spirit and I line it up next to what I'm doing, if I don't have joy, if I don't have peace, if I'm not kind with myself, like if it starts to produce this side of me that I don't like, I really start to pay attention. And social media is that for me. There's really no fruit for me in social media. I'm not against it, but when I line it up to my peace and my joy, it doesn't bring me any of those things, which is why I'm okay making the decision to stay off as long as I do. And I come back when I want. And that's just the decision I've made for me. I'm not saying you have to do that, but
Right.
that's where I've come to a place at. And I'm like, when I don't have fruit, in there, it's like, do I want to be a part of that? So I think it comes down to, definitely the mindset renewal, having to change the way that you think. Michaela, you were talking about like the inner work, right? Like not taking that pressure off, thinking that it just has to do with us, but also taking the pressure, the expectations off ourselves, right? Of thinking that it has to look a certain way in a certain time. I
Yeah.
think when we can start to get okay with God's timing and taking our hands out of it, I think we'll have a lot more peace with it, because things don't move fast enough in mine. I would have thrown in the towel a long time ago, but what I know is like I have to learn to be still, be still and be patient, and the time will come when it's time. It'll be time in God's time, not mine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that, Monica, just your boldness and your conviction, right? With like, hey, I don't need to be on social media. One of the things that I tell most of my clients that I am coaching, like for their podcast, we're building that. And it's interesting because lately, like God has been giving me more insight. And one of the things that I want to share is about like Chat GPT. And I'll kind of get to the social media in a bit. But I wasn't feeling inspired and I kept going to Chat GPT. And it kind of started when I felt like the Lord was shifting things and I had more clarity in what I was doing. And I had this bright idea to like rebrand, right? And then create a whole new podcast. And then I didn't feel right. And one of my clients was like, she's like, I don't mean this in a bad way, but did God tell you to change the name? And I was like, "What?" And it wasn't that I started to doubt myself, it was that when what she said to me stayed in my head, and I would like, it would just, like, come into my mind, and I started to pray about it, and I'm like, "You know what, God? You didn't tell me to change the name." So, anyway, like, I had to go do a whole thing, right? But I had another client who said to me, "I'm glad you did that." Because it shows that you're also trying to make things better and improve and you have that creative side that like, oh, well, let me try this. And so I think what women are really attracted to and what really appeals is our humanness. Like when we show them our humanness, they're like, hey, I'm on this journey with you. But yeah, ChatGPT was when I started using it a whole lot. And I really started to feel convicted from using ChatGPT Because for me, I started Fearless Mujer because that's what God had put in my heart. It wasn't because I would have never started a podcast, you guys. Like, y'all know, people would make fun of me when I was growing up because I have a squeaky voice. Like, it's a little squeaky right now, but if I get loud or laugh or get excited or mad, it's gonna be like Sonic the Hedgehog. um, but so that was my whole thing, is like I felt convicted. Like, God, please forgive me. Because there's something about being a follower of Jesus. When he inspires you to do certain things, he's going to give you the strategy. He's going to tell you what's next. And if you're not seeing fruit, that doesn't mean that you're not actually watering the seed for someone. Maybe it's not right now. Maybe it's in 6 months. Maybe it's in a year. And think about it too. We're dealing with people that have gone through a lot of things. They've been on this journey. They've, done healing. They're whatever it is, right? And so a lot of times we don't want to let people in. Like, I'm still very private about myself, and you guys know that, because I feel like some things are for me and God and for the people close to me. And that's okay. Like, I'm not going to apologize for that. But with social media, like, I do tell clients, that's not our focus. That's never our focus. My focus is always like, how are you going to connect to other people in a real way? Because that's how you're going to get fruit. When you're real with them, when you're showing them your humanness, and that's what God is teaching me. So I always feel like, hey, I'm not going to be the coach that tells somebody, hey, go be on social media 4 times a day. Go post, these amount of times a day. I try to post a little more consistent, for the simple fact that there's so much on social media that's actually tearing women down, that's making women feel bad about themselves, that's making women feel like I have to measure up to that. And what if we just use social media in a way where it does give God glory, which I think is very possible. So I'm glad you shared that, Monica, because I feel like, man, it almost takes the pressure again of like, I have to perform. You know what I'm saying?
And I like what you said too, that and only because this just hit me just now, is hearing you say that instead of looking at as, what can I do in a year, as opposed to, a decade, giving ourselves that grace of allowing things to happen in the time that it needs to, and us not having to put that limit on it, like, by this time I have to. Because to me, it's almost like, and the podcast that's coming out this Saturday is actually going to talk a little bit about that, about, when God comes in and interrupts your plans.
Oh,
right. Yeah,
so
it's
good.
going to be a
I
good one. So
can't wait.
I'm not going to give too much away, but it's a reminder of letting me know that if things are going to happen, it's going to happen when it happens, and it's going to be in God's timing. Here's what I need to be doing. I need to, instead going to work all grumpy because I have to go to work, I have to be, I need to turn that around and say, you know what, Jesus, thank you so much, because in this season of my life, you've given me this job that I get to do. I still get to talk to your people. I still get to pray openly. I still get to pour into others, and I'm getting provision out of that. Right. And at the same time, I have to also look, is this the season for me to focus on the business in the capacity that I think I need to be doing it, right? I always say that I've been saying that, I'm still in that building phase, because honestly speaking, I am in the building phase where I'm building community. I'm building not the name of Mommy on a Mission, but I'm building relationships. I'm building and cultivating all of these things for other women. And one of the things that I noticed, that when I did the beta testing for the Empower Her Transformation program, I started off with 4 ladies and ended up with 2 in the beta testing. And then I rolled it out, and Adria Women's Health Center partnered with me, and we collaborated, and I was able to offer to them. We started off with 6, and I ended up with 2. And so something that the pastor said was, he was giving an example about the 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 minus. And, he was talking about how he gave the slave the money. And the king wanted to go out there, and he was like, go invest this money. And a lot of people relate that to finances all the time, right? Because it's talking about money and how one, goes out, doubles it, the other one goes out, triples it. And then there's that one that says, oh, you know what? I'm just going to put it in a savings account. No, not a savings account. I'm just going to hold on to it. And when he comes back, I'll just give it back to him and be like, because I didn't want to risk anything. And he was like, you fool. You know, like, you fool. You couldn't even try to do anything. At least if you would have put it in a savings account, it would have grown interest, right? And so I had to look at it as the people that God was putting in my life to minister to talk to. These are the women that truly needed it and truly needed to hear God's word, and it needed to be intimate. So what he was telling me was that I needed to steward the two in each group. So even though it was two, it multiplied because it went from 2 times 2 and it came out to 4. So he was multiplying that, right? And I had to look at it in that way. And it's been very hard because, again, social media, the media itself, external expectations all tell us that things have to happen during these time frames. And if it doesn't, then it's almost like saying, oh, well, if you don't have a baby by the time you're in your 30s or whatever, the train's about to leave, you need to hurry up and start having these babies or you're not going to have it. And it's like, that what do they call it? That internal clock is going to go off. And it's like, why does it have to be that way? Because I even think about Sarah, she was old and still had a baby, and it's like, it's when God decides when it's time and when it's going to happen. But again, even I myself fall in that trap. I also fall in that trap of getting caught up with everything else and then comparison. Why? Because that's something that the enemy knew that I struggled with in my younger years. It's something that I struggled with in my 20s, and it's something that I even still struggled with in my 30s. By the time I got into my 40s, I was starting to not care. But here I am in a new territory, so to speak. And now those doubts are coming back in, and it's like, wait a minute, no. What do you care what other people think? And why do I have to overwhelm myself with all of these things? I need to focus on one area, just one, and then start, branching off. And I think that's what we do is we end up taking bigger bites instead of small ones. And so what happens is we get full too fast. And then we get lethargic. We get tired, right? We just want to go to sleep. We don't want to do anything anymore. We don't even want to move anymore. Why? Because we're taking in more than we can. And we're not giving ourselves an opportunity to digest everything that we need to in order to produce what God's calling us to produce.
Wow.
Yeah, that
That's
was
so
good. I love that. That's a good way to look at it. When you're talking about the two women you had left, Mariana, I was thinking about, like, right now in my community, because I started a new Facebook community, right? And I just want to be clear, like, when I say things about social media, like, y'all know that, but for the listeners that don't know me, like, I had a very, very, like, high dependence on social media. Like, at one point I had a, pretty decent following, and it was when I was a competitive boxer, and I thrived on that. That was like my drug, the validation, the attention, letting everybody know all my business, I mean, just putting everything out there for everybody to critique and judge me, So to tell you that I know what the freedom is like and what the peace is, like the fruit to not have to deal with all of that anymore, it's just so different today, But I do have a Facebook community group, and no, excuse me. I have two women on there. And the thing that's crazy is, like, before old me, I know that, and I've done this in the past, that's why I know that I'm capable of this. It's like when I was in that place where I was always seeking validation, or I always wanted to have, like, the audience, I'd have groups, and if they weren't active, like, I would stop them. you know, because I wouldn't sit around and wait, right? Like we're talking about that patience, that timing. And this time around, I have a group and I have 2 women in there and I've been serving them faithfully, you know, and that's what I'm doing. I'm just pouring into them as if it's a huge community. I'm pouring into them individually and I'm encouraging them. And I go in there and I make sure I post and I stay updated with them. I don't post every day, but I make sure that I stay connected with these women. And, you know, to me, it's like, when we're doing something, like we do it faithfully, right? As like we're doing it unto the Lord. Like that's the way I'm doing this. I'm seeking it as like how when I'm serving these people, I'm really serving that mission that God has put in my heart. And I've tried my best to get away from worrying about the followers and worrying about the influence, right? Because at the end of the day, you know, I'm here to want to serve other women. And I could tell you it wasn't always like that. You know, when I started the business 4 years ago, it's going on 4 years now, it looked very different. You know, it was more about myself. It was more about an image of me. It was an expansion of my image and my brand based on who I was as a person, you know? But again, this is why we wait. This is the purpose of patience, because in the patience, I s- God started to reveal to me what this brand was really going to be and who it was really going to be for. And it really had nothing to do with me. I was just put in position to help other women.
Mm.
And when I started to understand that God is putting me in position to help these women, I took that weight off myself to the need to perform, like y'all were talking about, right? Like I started to be able to choose that peace over that pressure. And I could start to serve these women well and come authentically instead of worrying about how I have to look for everybody else, you know? Because one of the biggest things I share, and I'm very open about it on my podcast, right? It's like, my worth was tied to my weight for the longest time, you know, and boxing instilled that in me. And I had that for years, right? Everybody knew my weight class. Everybody judged me on my weight. If I gained weight, everybody knew it because my weight was out in the open for everybody to see and critique. So when I became a mother, I'm in a body I don't recognize. I'm 50 pounds heavier. All of a sudden, hormones are playing a role. I can't lose the weight I'm doing. And it's like God gave me an opportunity to start from square one, like in the same place that my clients were, for me to see what it felt like. Not that he did that to me, but I'm saying that that opportunity presented itself for me to understand my clients better. Because I was that hard trainer at one point. Like I was like, oh, excuses, don't make excuses, right? Until I was there, until I became a mom, until now I can't lose the baby weight, right? No matter how much I do. So I feel like everything that we have and everywhere we go in our life, like whatever plays out in our life, right? With our business, our personal lives, like God uses that for his glory in one way or the other. I never thought I'd be honest and sharing with women that I struggle with, you know, my body image and my weight, because I had a lot of shame behind that. And that's what my podcast is based on today. It's like helping women have breakthrough and freedom from that. And you asked me to do that 5 years ago, I would have been like, no way I'm going to share that part of me. Like, I'm not going to get that vulnerable. But again, it's looking at it in the long term. Give it enough time to start to unfold for that harvest to come, right? For like how God is going to use it. And we can see, like, I mean, I'm excited to see what he's going to do in another 5 years in the business, right? Like that's why I keep hanging on and I don't give up, because I'm like, I want to see what he's going to do in another 5 years, you know?
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
Monica, you made me think of the scripture, Galatians 1:10. I was actually looking it up right now. But Paul is saying, like, am I now trying to win the approval of human beings or of God? Or am I trying to please people? If I were still trying to please people, I would not be a servant of Christ. And obviously there's other translations, but I thought of that scripture because there's something so freeing about knowing that I'm doing this for you, God. And one of the things that I had to do again was, because I feel like we set such high expectations for ourselves. And I had to tell the Lord, like, you know what, God, I give this all back to you. Like it was never my idea. It was not obviously, like, I took action and I, created things and all of that, but I've created what the Lord has allowed me to create. And, I had to give it all back to him. And one of the things too that I wanted to mention is, well, two things. number one, we always have to remember that we cannot measure our, if we're doing the right thing or our fruit, as you were saying, Monica, based on how many likes we have. Like when I post, I don't go see, oh, how many likes do I have? I don't, because I really don't care. And there's probably like some posts that have like 3 likes, whatever. Like, I don't care. You know what I do care about when it comes to social media? Me talking to people that reach out to me and me connecting with them in that way. But that how many likes I have doesn't measure if I'm doing a good job or if people liked it. Because I know, like, even with your stuff, guys, when you post stuff, I'm pretty sure that I thought I liked it, and then I realized that I didn't, because I'll see it again.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, man, I thought I liked her
You're not my
post.
friend. No, that's it.
But
Well,
the
she's
other
not my
thing,
friend. That's why. No, just
but the other thing too is that,
kidding.
like, I know you guys, so like I know I've done this where I'm like, oh, your episode was so. I haven't done it lately, but I'm like, your episode was so good. Like, I'm listening to it right now. Like, I needed to hear that. But I wanted to share, like, 1 Samuel 16:7. It says that man looks at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks at the heart. Is your
Yeah.
heart aligned to God? Because another thing that happens, and I feel that God will use your personal life to also train you and teach you things when it comes to business. And he will flip the script. If there's something in your personal life, in your heart, if you have pride, I know Monica and I have talked about that. If you have pride, if you have things that you're carrying around, the Lord cares more about working inside of you before you become this person that has like 100K followers, or like, this person that has all these clients. That's just my opinion. Like, the Lord cares more about working in my character, and sometimes he needs to work in me personally so that I can produce the fruit that he's called me to produce. And I feel like those are things that the secular, business world isn't going to teach you. They're not going to tell you those things. That, wait a minute, maybe before you get to that accomplishment, maybe before you get to reach 15K months, or however, whatever number, right, is in our head, maybe first God wants to work in your character, because what if you can't hold what he has for you? What if you
Right.
you don't have the maturity or the capacity to grow that? What if you become too prideful? I mean, look at what happened to Lucifer. Let's just be real, right?
Yeah.
He got really prideful. What if you get a little taste of the success that God has for you and you just forget about him?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We don't hear those things, because no, that's not fun to talk about,
No.
True.
No, it's not. And then a lot of times too, uh, with all that being said, that's where we get in that mindset where we get stuck, where we're always trying to find out. And we hear this a lot from women. I know that I have. And that's, I don't even know what my purpose is anymore. I don't even know what I'm supposed to be doing. And one of the things that I realize is that if you're out in, and I'm just going to say secular world, but out in the real world, out in the world, right? And you don't have an understanding of what it really means to have a purpose in faith-based aspect. Purpose is why, it's our why. It's that foundation. It's that thing that never changes. It's not tied to a job or a season or a role or identity. At the end of the day, we were all created for a purpose, and that purpose is to glorify God.
Amen.
That is our ultimate purpose. Our ultimate purpose is to glorify God, to reflect him in everything that we do, and to live a life that points back to him. Right? Whereas calling, and of course I had my episode on this, which is called Stuck in a Rut, you know, and I'm tired as, but I'm not gonna say the rest. No. That was the title. Like, girl, don't uh, but and it made me think about it, because it's true, our calling That's personal. Whereas purpose, that's for God. Our purpose is here to glorify him, right? Our calling is personal. It's how God invites us to glorify him. It's how he's going to use us. It flows from our gifts, our personality, our experiences, our stories, right? And the thing about it is that we use those words interchangeably, and we're not meant to use it interchangeably. They're meant to be used separately, right? And that calling can be in a way of, maybe you're a nurse and you're going to glorify God by helping his people during their healing process, during that time. Or maybe you've been called to be a teacher, and so you're going to glorify God by loving on the children that God has placed in your life, right? Whether you can pray about it or not. One of the things that I remember working at an organization was they would tell us, if your mouth was zipped shut, will people know that there was something about you that was different? Like, would they see God in you without you even having to open up your mouth? And I had to really think about that, because am I really truly living my life, and God can, and people can see that I am a believer in Christ without me even having to tell them, without having shirts that say that? And don't get me wrong, because I have those shirts too, because I'm all about my Jesus, but if we didn't have it and it was just us, can people tell that there's something different about us, right? And so then we're talking about, assignments, people's like, well, that's your assignment. But we have to realize that assignments have a start date, and assignments have an end date. An assignment isn't meant to be forever. An assignment isn't meant to be long lasting. An assignment is just meant to be for a season. Our purpose and our calling, our purpose is not going to change. Our calling could, but God's already given us these gifts. So he's going to use it. If we're going to be a teacher, doesn't necessarily mean we're going to be a teacher in a classroom. It could mean that we're teaching, people about God's word. It'll mean, but we have a certain skill set within us that allows us to do that. And that assignment is just a task. It's just a role that God's put us in for that moment, but that's going to change. And so we start feeling stuck when we allow for our assignment to be our calling, when in actuality, it's not. It's just the assignment. And so we feel stuck. We feel burned out. We feel like we're taking on too much because we're trying to keep our assignment as something permanent when it was never meant to be permanent. And so to let that go makes it it makes it harder. It says that an assignment is like, serve here for now. Work this job just for this season, or step into this ministry right now. And that ministry can be our business. Our ministry can be what we do at church. Our ministry can be our families, because first of all, this is a ministry as well. And so I brought all that up because, like I said, and I know we haven't touched on this yet, but we do have something that we are planning. That's why we started this podcast, was because we wanted to introduce that between all three of us, we collectively and collaboratively want to bring something so that we can bring our audience, our people, our groups together to have this moment of fellowship, of having this moment of building each other up just the way that we have, right? And it doesn't matter what season in your life you're in. What we want to do is to be able to remind women that God already created you for the purpose, and that was to glorify him. And that God has called each and every woman to do a certain task. He's assigned that role already to them, but it's about learning what your spiritual gifts are. It's about learning what your talents are, and how are you going to use it to glorify him. And Monica, you made a really good point there too. And that was because 3.5 years ago, I started my business, and like you, it started to be more about me. And that's where, and it just hit me because I've been asking God for a word, and God just gave me the word through you today, just now. And that's just how God works, right? And the thing about it is that I've been making the business about me and not about him. And God just revealed that to me right now.
Wow.
So this is what I'm talking about. This is what we're talking about, is that we learn from each other. God is
Yeah.
going to use something for, and so now I just felt this big weight off my shoulder. I just felt this release off of me because I just received that word from you tonight. And so glory to God for that, because he was telling me, you're making this about you, Mariana. This ain't got nothing to do with you. It's got to do with me. And now I feel like now he's going to open it. But I do know that I have to fast from social media for a while so that God can redirect me.
Yeah.
Because the assignment that I originally had has ended. And now I've got to go into a different assignment and start moving forward in that way.
Yeah. And
Amen.
honestly, no,
Yes.
that's powerful, Mariana. Like, it's the obedience part that, you
Mhm.
know, a lot of other coaches and entrepreneurs don't talk about. And that's why I was talking about, like, in your personal life, right? In your working in your character. And so one of the things that I wanted to share is, like, if you can't be obedient to what God tells you to do in your personal life, do you think that you're going to be obedient to what he tells you to do in your business? And,
Mhm.
you know, that's the one thing that, you know, I have learned is that having a business, being a creative, being in this type of space, things are sometimes not going to look the way that we think that they are.
Mhm.
And so that's the beauty of us being the kind of women that are like, you know what? Maybe this didn't happen this way. Like you said, Mariana, I love what you shared about assignment because
Mhm.
it made me think about like homework.
Yeah.
Like I turn this into the teacher and they're gonna grade it, you know, or like
And
my
that's it.
essay from school and that's it.
Yeah.
Like how simple, right? Don't be surprised and don't be so hard on yourself when you get a humble pie from God
Oh, yeah.
and now you
Absolutely.
have to do something or even let go of something or pause something for a season or end that assignment. It's okay to let
Mhm.
that go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of fear and like redirection. I think I know I've held on to things longer than I should have because I was scared of getting, changing again. And a lot of it is like worried about what people think about me. And I too have been guilty of jumping the gun and starting podcasts, like rebranding my podcast when God never told me to. This time around, when this time around I really felt the calling to do it, I was like, well, I already did it. But it was like, he never told me to the last time. So now he's really telling me to do it. But it was that obedience piece, and
Mhm.
and I just see the shift and I could tell the difference. I'm not even gonna lie to you. There was a point where I knew the Lord wanted me to stop my podcast. I would start my microphone and get everything ready, and I could literally not get a word out of my mouth. I'm not even lying to you. Like everything was wiped for me. Like I couldn't say anything, and all of a sudden my thoughts were like, I have nothing to say. And multiple times back to back, a few weeks, I would start the mic and I'd be like, I have nothing, Lord. Like nothing felt like it was from the Lord. It felt like if I was going to make an episode, it was going to be forceful. So I was obedient to that, and I laid the podcast down for a while and I said, I'm only going to pick it back up when I feel you're calling me to do it. Right. But
Mhm.
if I was basing it on what social media told me to do, society told me to do, hustle culture, you got to keep going, don't give up, you got to keep pushing. Like I would be so far out of God's will. I wouldn't even know how
Wow.
I'd make my way back right away. I was thinking of the scripture as you were saying something earlier, Mariana, and I shared about this on my podcast and I my episode that I did today that I aired today. But I was thinking about when, the woman, when Jesus is talking to the Samaritan woman,
Mm,
right? And he
Mhm.
tells her, he says, everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again. And when we think about the water that he's talking about in that sentence, it's like the hustle culture, what the world tells you, right? And then he goes down to say, but whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. And so when I tie that to like, when I'm in God's will, I don't feel like you were saying earlier, lethargic, right? I don't feel thirsty when I know I'm in God's will. Like I don't have
Mhm.
desperation. I'm desperate when I'm not in God's will. I'm like
Yeah.
trying to cling on to whatever it is I can get. I want to, drink all the water he's talking about, whatever the culture's telling me to do. Go here, go to that platform, post on TikTok, post here, right? When I'm desperate. But when I'm in God's will, I'm I don't have that fear, you know? I don't feel that thirst, right? Like it talks about in scripture. And so it was so cool how, you know, the Lord had showed me that last week when I was getting ready for the podcast I aired today was a guest. And I was like, wow, like the way the Lord breaks down scriptures for us, right? Like the ones you read all the time, and all of a sudden he's showing you a different perspective. Like
Yes.
this water, you
Yeah.
thirst, you know, this
Yes.
culture makes you thirsty. And so I was like, wow. So it blew my mind when I read that. And I just wanted to share that because I feel like, yeah, like somebody needs to hear that. Like somebody right now that either they want to throw in the towel, or they're too scared to start, or they're too scared to pivot, or they're, you know, they have fear of what it's gonna look like if they follow what the Lord is telling them, you know, kind of like that
Yes.
visual where, you know, Jesus has that big old teddy bear behind him and he's like, give me what you got, you know, to the little girl with the small teddy bear and she doesn't want to let it go. It's like, we're like that, you know, like God has
Yes.
something so much better. We just got to be okay with without instant gratification too, because it doesn't mean that we surrender it and we're going to get what we want right away. There's going to probably be some timing. There's going to be some pruning, you know,
Oh,
and can
absolutely.
we be
Yeah.
okay with that? Can we be okay staying in position even when it doesn't look good at that moment, you know? So yeah, I just wanted to share that. I know we wanted to like
Yeah.
talk about our event. I love it though.
Yeah.
This has been an awesome conversation.
Yes, it has. I'm just so glad that we had that. And it you were talking, and then I started thinking of another scripture, and one that's well known for all of us. Well, all of us in here. I'm not going to say it for everybody because maybe you're new to the Bible, maybe you're new to God's word, maybe you're new to listening to this podcast. But the scripture that comes to mind and has been a scripture that I've been holding on to now for quite some years now. I would say about the last 10 years. And because we all have in seasons of our life, we'll have a life verse, right? It's what we call,
Yes.
you know, our life verses, the ones that we cling on to and hold on to. And that's Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, you know, trust in the Lord and all your, trust in the Lord with all your heart, lean not on your own understanding, in all your ways, acknowledge him and he will direct your paths. And one of the things that he says is God directs paths. It's plural. It's got an S, right? And it means that we will have many assignments. We're going to have multiple seasons. We're going to have different directions at different times. And the same God who led us into those seasons will also lead us out of those seasons, right? Because maybe we're not stuck. Maybe we're transitioning. Maybe we're called higher, deeper, or somewhere new, right? We don't know. But the thing about it is that we have to remember it's not that we're confused or that we're all over the place. It's that in every aspect of our life, we begin to evolve.
Yeah.
We transition. And a good way of looking at that is if we think about the caterpillar that goes into a cocoon, and that caterpillar is in there for a good while. It's not in there for just a little bit. It's in there for a good season, right? But it's growing and it's transforming and it's becoming, and then it opens out of that cocoon and it becomes, a butterfly. But imagine the work it took to go from this ugly looking bug out, crawling into this beautiful, magnificent creature. So imagine if God can do that for a butterfly, what is he doing with us? He's transforming us, and it's painful. It's a process. It's not easy. It feels like it's forever, and it's not. But God is evolving us and transitioning us into this new creation so that we can go out there and flourish, and to go out there and just spread our wings out and speak to people about who he is and what he can do in our lives and how he can pick us up and move us, you know, and sometimes it'll be seamless and sometimes there'll be a struggle. But at the end of the day, God always had something far better than we could have ever imagined for our lives.
Yeah. Wow,
Right.
Mariana.
Yes.
When you were talking about the butterfly and the caterpillar, I just thought about like the cocoon and how it's dark in there.
Yeah.
Because what I've learned in my own life, God is still working in the dark places. Like
Mhm.
you may think that that part of your story, though it was so dark, and sometimes the enemy uses that put shame in us and make us feel like just forget about everything. Who's going to listen? Who cares? Who you're kidding? Whatever, all the ways that, and not just the enemy, but the unhealthy agreements that we've made, right? The things that have been spoken over us. And so, I want to remind those that are listening, like, God is still working in those dark places. Like, he is not done. Even that does not define you. And again, we talked about God getting glory in the beginning. He's still going to get glory somehow from that dark season.
Yep.
And I think that's the most
Amen.
beautiful thing. And so I just think it's such a beautiful thing when we can understand, like Mariana was saying earlier, this ain't even about me. The pastor where I go to church shared a message last week where he's like, you can't do more or less to change God's love. Like, he loves you the same.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And
Yeah.
so I just think it's such a beautiful thing when we can think that way. And so that's one reason why I think this event is going to be such a special time, because we want to bring you that cup of water. Like, Monica, you were talking about the water, right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to give you a cup of that water so that you can understand, like, man, God isn't done with you. He still has so much more for you. And whatever season you're in right now, maybe if it's a dark season, right? Maybe you're healing, maybe whatever it is, right? Maybe trauma has came back to visit you, because that's one thing that I can say as well is, like, you can hide your trauma. You can try to forget about it, but it will resurface. And
Yes.
sometimes God allows that so that he can pull that out of you. Why? Because those are weeds in your soul that you don't need to have for your next season. So I pray that if, like, whoever's listening right now and you're like, man, I'm curious about this, event. Obviously, we're going to be promoting it on social media, but I hope that y'all, like, message us. Let us know, hey, I want more information. I'll have the link for the event in my bio for IG, but also, like, in the show notes. So, I just wanted to remind women, like, we're here for you. This isn't about us, This isn't about us making a name for ourselves or look at what I'm doing. No, it's about you. We want to invite you to have a seat at our table.
That's right. A fresh drink.
Yes.
Right? That's what we're looking at. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. A fresh. No, I think it's going to be good. I love how we came together with it. I think we were all in alignment with this. We knew the Lord was calling us to do something. Maria Micaela, you kind of, sparked it up, and then we all we're like, let's do it, So it's exciting that, you lit that fire for us. And that's what we do here. Like Mariana was sharing earlier, like, we all are in different seasons, different age ranges, but we all come together, and there's never any competition between us. Like, it's so beautiful. Like, we have such a wonderful friendship and sisterhood, and we uplift each other. We laugh a lot. It's beautiful, right? What the Lord's done in this relationship with all of us. And we want y'all to be a part of that, just come share that joy with us, share what sisterhood is like, and at a place where nobody is looking to their left or right? We're just locking arms and encouraging each other, lifting one another up. That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yes.
So,
And if you want to
Mariana,
bring some birria tacos, go ahead, bring some birria tacos. If you want to bring something to drink, like a Coca-Cola, or, or some kind of
Abuelitas,
season. Then go ahead, ladies. Bring it on. We're all about it.
Yeah.
So January 8th, right, guys? Thursday, January 8th. I think we said 7 or 7:30, 7 o'clock.
7 to 8:30.
Well, yes, we'll have all of the information in the show notes, but I'm excited. And Monica, since you said Spark, title?
Reignite Your Spark?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No one looking at y'all like,
yes. We're guys, it's like past our bedtime when we're recording, okay? Please forgive us.
Giggly, and we giggle a lot at night.
Oh my God. Side note, just so y'all can see we're not boring and serious all the time. We spent the night at Mariana's when it was her event, and me and Monica were just cracking up like little girls. Like, it was
giggling.
it was awesome. But I think I think that's just the beauty of how God works. And just like that innocence again. I don't know if that makes sense.
Childlike.
Like,
Yes.
because I mean, obviously, no makeup, we're washing our face in our pajamas, I know I'm just gonna say it. I was gassy because we had just ate tacos.
We're giggly. It was funny.
But
Oh my gosh.
that's
Falling
Yeah.
asleep and
well, yeah, Mariana was falling asleep, but we were talking about social media, right? You don't get that.
no.
Yeah.
That's the
They
thing
don't.
that people don't do is actually show their real side, which obviously like it's not for everyone, right? It's for the safe people, but I just think it's beautiful, and I hope that women who are listening understand like this is that kind of space.
Yeah. No
Like
filter.
no girl, if you're wearing a
Yeah.
chongo and no makeup, whatever, like we don't care. We just want you there. And it is
That's
going to
right.
be virtual. It's going to be virtual. So, grab your favorite coffee mug, get on your computer and just join us. Like, we're so excited.
Yeah.
Yes. We're expecting a lot of, great things, a lot of laughs, and we're also even planning a little game, for all of us to do. So it's going to be a fun night. I'm looking forward to it. I'm always looking forward to finding ways to get with these two nutheads and for us to just laugh and stuff because it is fun. It's like Michaela said, it was a sleepover. We felt like it was a sleepover.
It
Right?
was.
And you're giggling, and your mom's probably like, I didn't see it.
That wasn't the first time, though. When I had the Rice Girl Rise event, Monica
I
slept
spent the
over.
night. I'm a bad
Yeah.
influence.
No, Monica slept over my apartment, and I had to work the next day. But gosh, we were cracking up about something funny someone said, and I don't
We were
even know,
laughing.
but it was so hilarious. And actually, like I'll share this just full transparency. They were fixing the water in the apartment building that night, so there was actually no water for a little bit. So I told Monica, I'm gonna save you the toilet water so you can go pee. TMI,
And she gave me
TMI.
her bed. And she gave me her bed. I was all
Yeah,
snuggled up in
I
her
let her
bed.
sleep
I'm
in my
all,
bed. TMI,
okay.
guys. I'm
I
not
know.
gonna edit that. Obviously,
It's
that's
okay.
someone
It's
needs
okay.
to laugh.
That's how much she loves me.
I saw sometimes I tell her like, remember I saved you the toilet water?
I know. I'm all, I don't remember, but thank
then
you.
it worked later. Then it worked later. But no, I'm so glad we did this, and it's past our bedtime, but it was awesome.
It was. Yes. I'm
Yeah.
looking forward to our event.
Yes,
So am I.
excited. All right, well, God bless y'all. Thank you for listening. This podcast will be on all three of our podcasts. So I'll just say, like, you guys can find me, Micaela, on Instagram at the Fearless Mujer Podcast. My podcast is the same, the Fearless Mujer Podcast. And you can also find me on fearlessmujer.com. Monica?
So you can connect with me on my podcast, Faith Led Fitness for Moms in Recovery. Also my website, boxfitqueens.com. I have a YouTube channel, BoxFit Queens, under BoxFit Queens, that has all my boxing workout programs on there that you can go check out. You can also find me on Instagram and TikTok, but again, that's like the last place you'll probably find me responding. So email me or something else like that.
What's your email? I
Oh,
know it.
boxfitqueens at Gmail. Yeah.
.com. Hey, .com.
Okay. .com.
Mariana?
And you can find me also on Instagram at Mommy on a Mission podcast. And that's Mommy, MAMI, which stands for Mujeres Alcanzando Metas Imposibles. You can also find my podcast under the same name, Mommy on a Mission podcast. I'm also on Facebook, but the area you probably find me the most is probably going to be in my Facebook group. I have the Mommy on a Mission podcast community group on Facebook because, as I mentioned earlier, I'm fasting from social media. However, I am going to continue to pour into that. So if that's something that you're interested in, you can obviously join me on there, but you can find me on Mommy on a Mission podcast on Facebook as well. So it's all about Mommy on a Mission podcast, all about Fearless Mujeres and Boxfit Queens. We're there, we're here. So if there's anything that, or anyone that one of us that you resonated with, because we're all different, but we're all the same in our unique ways.
Some of us talk about pee water.
Going to get the birria tacos while some person is
Hit up
right in front of
Michaela.
us.
Hit up Michaela.
If you want realness, no, I'm kidding. If you want to laugh, hit me up. No, this was so good. Guys, we gotta laugh. It's a holiday season. Like
It
Yes.
is.
people are there's too much going on.
That's right.
But we love you all. We love you all so
Yep,
much.
you.
We
We're
do.
so glad you're here. And we just pray blessings over you guys. God bless.
God bless.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Amiga, thank you for tuning in to the Mommy on a Mission podcast. If this episode blessed you, encouraged you, or gave you that little push you needed, please share it with another woman who needs it. That's how we build this community of mujeres walking boldly in purpose. Make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And if you're ready to go deeper, you can connect with me on Instagram, or you can join the Mommy on a Mission podcast community on Facebook, where women are healing, growing, and turning their God-given purpose into bold action. Until next time, remember this: you are strong, you are chosen, you are on a mission.